Easy-E. Easy-E? Easy-E? Oh yeah, that's right. You're not here today for the podcast. So before I get into today's very, very different podcast, let me just explain why and what's happened to me over the last 24 hours. So, yesterday, Saturday evening, I'm recording this on a Sunday evening at the moment. So Saturday evening, I'm sitting back and I'm like with the girlfriend, and she's like, we're supposed to go to tapas there Sunday evening, which will be right about now. And clearly, I'm not there. But during that, she rings up her friend, and I was a last minute replacement because she was supposed to go to her friend and her sister over to this tapas place, whatever, have some food. I was like, you know what, they let you down, I'll join in. Long story short, in that one, her friend got her times mixed up where she makes Saturday night or Sunday night. I was wondering she was free Sunday night, and I was like, you know what, if you want to go with your friends, don't worry about it. I was expecting a little, are you sure that's alright? She was like, okay. I was like, cheers. So I got pushed to the side in that one. Very next morning, Sunday morning, myself and Eric are supposed to go for a run in the Phoenix Park. So I texted him around 9:15 as usual, saying, hey, I'm going to be around 15 minutes late. I'm just leaving the house now in a couple of minutes. I'll see you there. We have this thing we must have ran 4 or 5 times the park so far this summer on Sundays. And every time we run, we always say we're going to meet there at 9 o'clock, and we always get there at 9:15. We're both consistently late. We're very punctual with being 15 minutes late. So as usual, hey, I'm not going to get there at 9:15. I get there, and I'm rushing at this stage. It's getting closer to 9:20. I was like, I don't want to hold him up any longer because I know he's heading off in the afternoon. With work, he has to go over to a different country and all the rest with that. So I was like, all right, I'm feeling bad. I won't get any water. I got to fly there, get as quick as I can. I get there, pull up. I don't see his car. And I look at the WhatsApp, and he's texting me literally 3 minutes before I got there. And he's like, oh no, I'm heading off out of the country today. I'm like, you told me in the afternoon you were heading off, so I got pushed away for a second time. So bad. But these things only happen to a person twice. Not so fast. About to sit down for a bit of dinner there around 2 hours ago, and a couple of friends text me, said he went to did that I forget what it's called now, but it's up between Dublin and Wicklow Mountains. Your tree climbing and all the rest. It's gonna come to me as soon as I wrap up this intro to the podcast. You're cycling across bridges and you're going across ropes and different things like that up in trees. I forget the fucking name of it right now. I'm not even gonna look it up. But there is probably one or two of you shouting at me exactly what the thing is called right now. But anyway, so like, we're heading back to the house right now. You want to come over for a bit of barbecue? I'm like, you know what? That sounds good, but I have a bit of food on. I'll meet you around 7 o'clock or so afterwards. And all in the meantime, thinking, we have absolutely nothing for the podcast. I don't really want to do a podcast episode by myself. I don't think it'd be that entertaining. I've nothing really to talk about right now that I haven't mentioned in the podcast in the last couple of weeks, especially doing a couple of episodes just me and Eric back to back. So then I get a text from just as I finish food. I'm literally getting ready to head on over to him. I get a text going, we're actually a bit tired from climbing trees all day. And I'm like, what? So we're going to pack it in, and that's pretty much it. And I'm like, well, cheers for that, guys. So I don't know what I've done. I don't know what I've done over the last couple of weeks, months, whatever it is. But for somehow on one weekend, I have been dropped, ditched, left out 3 times the space 24 hours. So I'm feeling great right now, as you can imagine. So I got the idea. What we're going to do with this podcast, we're going to go all the way back to 2020. Don't worry, we're not going to relive COVID part of 2020, but we're going to talk with the guests we had in early 2020. Well, I say early 2020, I mean the first 3 or 4 guests we had ever on the podcast, talking about their adventures and different journeys that they went through, because things are opening back up again. I know we've started this podcast on a negative note myself, but I want to start this podcast really, after the intro music, on more of a positive note, on more of looking forward to things open back up again. So we're going to be talking about the Art of Neil Challenge. We're going to talk about Sea to Summit. We're going to be talking about triathlons. We're going to be talking about half IronMans, and we're talking about World Championship half IronMans as well. That's all coming up right after we hit the intro music. So, to talk about all these events, it's not going to be me talking about it. We're going back to 2020. We're going to have short little snippets from these podcast episodes. So the first one up is Austin Doyle talking about the Art O'Neill Challenge, exactly what that is with Eric, and his experiences going through that. Hell of a story, guys. Check it out.
Doing the Art O'Neill. How was it?
Yeah, deadly. I was the same. I entered for you and I was, and I think you got pulled out and I didn't. I can't remember. We were trying to weasel me in somehow.
Yeah, we were charming.
yeah, I can't remember what we were saying. It was like, well, my friend Eric's after getting in, and look, I know it's a lottery, but I can't remember what we were actually trying to say.
Yeah.
Or they're having none of that. Fair enough, like, because it's 200 spots and couple of thousand probably enter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got my notice. So that was, I think it was the 21st of January or 28th of January. So I'd signed up for, there's a half marathon in Dundee every year. I've done it the last 2 years. It just keeps you honest over Christmas, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
just something to be training for. And Dundee is about 20 minutes away from here as well. And Lou's done it as well, I think. So it's good. It's like, it's half marathon through the forest. It's 4 laps. Happy everyone. And then you go home and finish off more crisply. But so I think it was the 7th of January, got an email saying so people keep pulling out of this thing. I'm not too sure. I think a lot of people enter it and then just have no ambition to do it.
Yeah.
So I got 3 weeks to go. I was going from training for a half marathon to an ultra. First ultra. I'd never done an ultra. I'd never done more than a marathon before. So
the total distance is over the 50k, isn't it?
It's 50, yeah, over 50 is an ultra, but this is 53, I think. So, yeah, 3 weeks to go. Another fella, Doyle, as you know, he did it. Doyle was on a team. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can walk the whole thing. You can run the first half and get a guided walk for the second half, or you can run the whole thing. Now, to put it in the context, the fella who wins it, I can't remember this year now, but last year, there's a fella from Hull, he owns a gym, Number One Fitness. I can't think of his name now, but he is the Irish and Polish record for fastest Ironman, fastest Irish person to do marathon. I'm not sure if Brian Chris has beaten it since now, but he came in, I'm going to say, 3 hours behind your man who won it.
My God.
Now, your man was from Poland, I think, who won it, and the story goes that he was in such a rush, like by the time most people had finished, he was actually back in the airport flying home. Like he was.
Oh my God!
So I don't know if you booked the wrong tickets or something like that. That's so nice. That's the kind of animals you're meeting this thing. So anyway, 3 weeks ago, I had no chance to do any recce's of any of the areas. Like we'd probably been in some of the areas of work, but you would like to have done a bit of it.
At least mentally, so you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. So 3 weeks ago, I had most of the year. I just got a pair of trail runners. I went up to Grey Outdoors there in Dublin. Other shops are available. I don't know if you're allowed to say that. But
we'll tag them all. Keep it going.
Your man who helped me, he was actually very good. Cameron, his name is. He done it last year. He walked it last year, and he's planned to run this year. So he gave me a pair of Innovates. Loved them. Like, I think I can walk up a wall, these jokes. The grip on them is ridiculous. So, 3 weeks ago, you start off, so just try to get a few hills. And I think we went up a hill, we went up Ticknock, didn't we?
Yeah, I think I nearly needed a helicopter or one of the lads to come and get me off the hill. But yeah, we did, yeah. We
went up Ticknock, that was my hill training. Obviously, I was doing a bit for the half marathon. But like, with all these things, it's better to be under-trained than overtrained as well. So I wasn't overtrained. So you arrive to Dublin Castle on a Friday night. It's actually some setup. You have they have a whole waiting area. There's a fellow selling coffee and hot drinks there and stuff like that. It's Dublin Mountain Rescue. It's a fundraiser for them, so they're all over as well. You see, I think registration starts probably anywhere after 7 or 8 or something like that. You get there, you hand in a bag because there's a checkpoint after 30 kilometers. So whatever you want in your bag, you put in that. So that's dropped off. Then at midnight, they start running. So you leave Dublin Castle. It's actually off the top of my head now. It's called the Arkneil because Arkneil and his brother, I can't remember his name, and Hugh McNeil, which were 3 prisoners in 1750, escaped. But they had to leave their coats behind. And they ran from Dublin Castle to Glenmalure. And Arkneil actually died as a cross with about 7 or 10 kilometres left where he died. So it was freezing cold night. So hopefully, like, no one, I don't think anyone's died doing that short race. But,
I hope not, anyway.
So you run the 30 kilometres, that's pretty much on road. You run by Kilbride Camp and a few other places. You run through Tala, kind of that direction. And then after about, it's all like, it's cool, run through the city, midnight is cool. Then you get to about the 12 or 13 kilometre mark, and then you start hitting Wicklow Mountains.
No, not me.
Yeah, remember that hill we were cycling? At the time from Tala, we cycled towards Leston.
I know you could barely make it up the hill. Yeah. Thanks for bringing up all these stories. Yeah, you're very good. My confidence.
you run up there, and then you're off to the Wicklow Hills. And after 30 kilometres is your checkpoint, so you get your bag. And actually, I remember there's a lot of people that are like, at the start, like, what are you thinking of doing then? And I had no idea. I was like, it'd be nice to get there before sunrise, which was 8 o'clock. So I was chatting to one fellow, it was the third time doing it. And he was like, I'm taking the first 30 kilometres in under 3 hours. And I was like, yeah, that's the thing. You're gonna get out there, just sub 6 minute kilometres, get up to the checkpoint, another 3 hours, and then see how I get on. He's like, after that, I'd say it'll take me about 10 hours. And I was like, what? Like, 10 hours, like, it's 20 kilometres. Like, what are you going to crawl? Like, so that absolutely, I was like, and again, it probably comes down to had I got the work done, kind of probably not really, but
yeah.
Like, I wasn't going to give up, and my shoulder wasn't going to fall out in the swim, so there was no swim, I was happy out. So anyway, you get to your checkpoint after 30 kilometres and put on the trail runners, then a bit warmer gear. And there's also, like, at this place, a soup, lots of food, hot drinks, all this big fire if you want to heat up and all. So I was like, the longer I stay there, they're just going to cool down and lose momentum. So I ended up leaving that checkpoint on my own. And you run from this checkpoint and you get to the end of this forest track. And from that forest track, you're meant to have a map, pretty sure. Yeah, you're meant to have a map and a compass. And you have to get from this gateway to this other gateway that's 8 kilometres away over a hill. And obviously, there's a hill in the middle, so you can't just see this gate, like, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, like, So I had a kind of a route I knew I wanted, and with the watch as well, it was handy because you kind of knew whereabouts you were. But luckily, I fell in with these 3 other lads who I think it was their third time doing it. And one of them was about my age, the other 2 must have been in their late 50s. And, like, 2 of them were very experienced runners. I was like, have you done many races like this year? And he was like, yeah, I did a half. No, he did like a 60-kilometre race the week before. He said, I had legs a bit tired. Like, it's the afternoon. You have to do the afternoon. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, I probably did a 5K last weekend just to keep it. So, like, I ran with them far faster than I probably would have ran on my own. Like, but you're running across Total Mountains bog. There's a few, like, you're running through, the trails the sheep will leave behind. Yeah. There's no. That's cool because there's no, like, in no quest race, there might be a route. And, if you stick to the road or if you're going over a hill, there's, like, flags. This is literally whatever you think the best route is. So if you don't want to climb the hill, you can go around the hill. You go left or right, it's up to you. So you're going over this hill and you can look 100 yards to your right and you see 4 headlights. And then about 400 yards to your left, you'll see another few headlights. And you're like, I am completely lost here. So eventually, you get to this gateway, and there's actually, I don't know if he was meant to be there or if he was part of the race, so he didn't have any official stuff, but he was actually at the gate waving his light, but you can only see him about a kilometre to go with the way the trees were. So you get in, so you get to him back onto the forest track, and you get to a second checkpoint. And again, same thing, warm food, all that. Stop there for about 5 minutes. There was no drop back there. That was just a bit of a slush, like, to break up the 22 kilometres from the first checkpoint. So we keep there, and the 2 lads that had done it before were like, yeah, so this is the hardest part now. And I was like, oh my God. The watch just clicked 43 kilometres. So I was like, right, this is the first I've ever ran. And these lads just say, this is the hardest this race gets. And I was like, yes.
See, that's the difference between me and you. You think brilliant. I'd be putting up a flare and ringing my mum.
So I was like, deadly, this is cool. So again, you're going through forest tracks, and again, you get to a gate, and you're looking at a map and a bearing, and you're just going pretty much like, this one was to the top of the hill. It was a frozen lake you were aiming for, and then from there, it's Glenmalure you're into. So from the last 3 kilometers, do you know when you go past Glenmalure and you go to that car park?
Yes.
And you go up the hill and there's the hostel.
Yeah.
You run down there, and I swear to God, it's not the feeling of, when you finish something, but like, that's the reason I do it. Like, that last 3 kilometers, you're looking at the sunrise for about 3 kilometers. You can just see the sun is starting. It kind of came over like 5 to 8. So you run down the hill, just the euphoric feeling of like,
it nearly brings tears to you, but you won't admit that.
I'm gonna do it, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think it was 7:43. So got in there. There was a fella cooking sausage and rashers, and had a lovely big sandwich with red sauce. And Lou was tracking me, and so Lou was meant to get there to see me finish anyway. So there was me anyway, and I just had a sandwich, and I was just put up for this to be finished. But like, that feeling of finishing that was amazing. Like, it's deadly, like.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
And that's why I do it again. Like I had to untie my laces. I had to pour tea on my runners to defrost the laces. I swear to God.
Oh my God.
But like, I suppose at the time, I don't remember thinking at the time, but like, if I had stopped, like, it was just going to freeze. Like, so I'd probably just like, if I stop, I'll just get cold. Like, so I'll just keep going.
So I'll just keep going. And no one's going to know where I am because it's dark.
Every step is just a little bit closer to the finish line, but like that, it's the nicest finish line you could ever imagine. Like, you're running down that hill by that hostel, the sun is coming up. We were lucky enough with the weather. It was just free. Like, it was a clear night, so there was no cloud cover, so it was freezing. But like, it wasn't that windy, I don't think. It was dry, and it had been like,
the nicest night for it.
Pardon?
It was the nicest night you could have had for it.
Perfect, like, and like, it was just pure bog you were running through. So it was, if you fell, it was just soft anyway.
So what you've done now is, anyone who we had even trying to try a 5K with us, you've completely turned them off everything, because that sounds disgusting to absolutely most people. Oh, you've convinced me. You've absolutely convinced me, and I definitely think I'm going to put in for it now next year and give it a go with you.
I'm definitely going to for it.
And safe to say, and looking at your reaction even as you're talking about it, I know that feeling. I've never done that kind of distance, but that feeling of even finishing a marathon is that kind of euphoric feeling. And even my first 10K that I did, that I never thought I would do, was that euphoric feeling. But we're going to wrap this up.
You never really ran a lap at a rugby pitch. You went home to my mother.
Yeah, ran a lap at a rugby pitch.
Everyone finished line is different, right? No?
Yeah, and now you're running over mountains in the pitch black thinking you're having a great time.
So we'll switch gears a little bit. Tom Dixon's up next. So Eric was talking to Tom Dixon last year on the aptly titled Lawless Files. We used to do podcasts on a Thursday evening where Eric would interview different people. This was, I think, the second guest after he had Owen Murphy on talking about the marathon in the estate. So this episode with Tom, in this part of the podcast, they're talking about building up to the Sea to Summit and that leading into triathlons. And I think it's in the clip, them talking about great nutritional advice after doing their swims and stuff like that, going straight to McDonald's to get a ton of chicken McNuggets. Check it out.
I used to suffer a bit from injury with GA, but since I've gone and done the running, adventure race and triathlon stuff, I haven't been suffering from major injuries at the minute. But yeah, we went on and I suppose actually my girlfriend is from Westport in Mayo, and her dad is a big cycler, and they have probably the adventure race, the biggest adventure race on the adventure race calendar, and the most established is 10 years running now up in Mayo, up in Westport, and it's a run, cycle, then run up Croagh Patrick, and then back down Croagh Patrick over very undulated ground. People taking a lot of risks and a lot of I suppose it's a different type of event on the body. Its impact on the body when you're going over terrain like that, and then hopping back on the bike, and then there's a short run then to the finish. But that was kind of my introduction to I suppose trending towards my goal of getting involved in triathlons, and I managed to pull you along then to the next event that we did, which was down in Glendalough.
You had this whirlwind of an idea that we both do Glendalough in April, and
it wasn't just me. We have bad influences of friends that are into stupid long distance events.
Stupid stuff. But,
really, we're just passengers in all this.
We were just put on our seatbelt and held on for dear life, really. But yeah, we just trained. We just did a bit of running, if I remember right, in the build up to that. We were quite good on our feet, but we didn't know cycling. And the first hill in Quest Glendalough is like a 6 kilometre climb that I would struggle to walk up, never mind cycle up. I remember cursing you for every turn and pedal the entire way up that hill.
I remember actually that because the cycle for Sea to Summit is predominantly flat, and we went down to Glendalough, and sure, you know, we were thinking it was fine heading down there, and you're driving down through a valley and you're like, it's going to be fine, and then realising the first 6k you were cycling up a wall, and there was all these guys passing me in their 40s and 50s, like, and I'm like, what is going on, you know? So it kind of showed where we were at as regards our cycling at the time, and that it was an area we needed to address, I suppose, going forward.
Definitely humbling. I think
definitely.
Always say about it, we say the guys, and some of these guys with 40 and 50 and a big belly on them passing.
And pure power, and I suppose years of training on the bike, you know.
Yeah, just time on bike is better than no time on bike, and it's the same principle of just going for the runs better than no run, regardless of time. Like, so we had that realization. We trained a bit then. We did Sea to Summit the next year. You dragged me along to that.
We did. We went on, and we've a good group of friends that are into kind of adventure races and endurance races. So we've actually nearly made it a yearly thing now, where we're going up to Sea to Summit. We're nearly making it a yearly thing now with a group of our friends, both male and female lad, that are into the adventure races, and more people that maybe mightn't have been into fitness have been kind of following us into it and getting involved, which is also great as well. A friend of yours who doesn't do any training and just turns up to these events and does them, which is, you know, very commendable as well, and it's great to be part of. I suppose when we came out of the intro to Glendalough and Sea to Summit, then the two of us were kind of talking about maybe getting into the triathlon, and the big fear. Problem. Neither of us the big fear, I suppose, the two of us had was the swimming. Now, bear in mind, you were a lifeguard or a trained lifeguard.
Yeah, lifeguard.
Buffer is more like what it was.
Like, I didn't even have to get in the water as a lifeguard. There was a big stick to pull them out. Like, it was that. It was, well, I hadn't swam in I don't know how many years, like, and I wouldn't have been a perfect swimmer. I could swim, and I could carry someone in the water for 50 meters or whatever was required for the exam. But since then, I've done nothing. And me and you were looking at a 17-meter wide pool, and we could barely swim in the length.
Yeah, and we set the goal for the Olympic distance was the first one, so it was 1,500 meters we needed to get to. And I was the same with the swimming. Like, I hadn't swam like properly since, I suppose, majority of people maybe listening have done, you know, the bit of swimming during primary school or maybe the entry into secondary school. But as regards swimming lengths, I'd never done it. And we hopped into a pool in Tala, very close to us, an 18-meter pool. Two was went in the first night.
18,
And at the time, I didn't have a fitness watch. I think you had the Fitbit.
Yeah.
And we hopped into the pool, and we did 2 lengths.
And looked at each other with fear.
Of an 18-meter pool, and the two of us were in absolute bits, and we were wondering, was this ever going to be achievable, you know? But we stuck at it, in fairness, and I think we were going 3 nights a week for, you know, we started in January, and a tie was in May, which was our first triathlon. And
June bank holiday, wasn't it?
June, yeah. So, you know, there was a lot of time that we put into it, and we ended up joining the National Aquatic Centre then as the swimming got better. And, you know, we were able to get into do the 50-meter stuff. But I suppose the big takeaway point from that is anyone interested in getting into endurance, you know, you're not going to be able to do these distances starting off. Like, you're just, you just can't, your body won't let you because it's not familiar with it at all. But I suppose the more time, and if you're willing to put the development into your body to get up to these distances, you know, you can certainly get there no matter what level of fitness you're coming from, you know.
Yeah. Big thing though, and this is the honesty circle. So this is our guilty confessions as opposed to honest athlete confessions. So we're either guilty or athletic. So we're going to say guilty.
Yeah.
We were training, and then after the swimming pool, where were we going to eat?
We were going to McDonald's.
Yeah, every night.
And we'd actually sit in the car for probably 5 minutes, and like the McDonald's would be just off the route to back where we were living, and we would justify over 5 minutes the amount of calories that we had burned for that given day. And we'd be picking up obviously maybe not obviously, but wraps of the day that were maybe €2.20. Yeah. We'd be sitting in a car park there and going, geez, I'm still hungry.
Yeah, well, we get it.
So here we're going to be talking to Reuben Whelan, and Reuben had done the Dublin Marathon before. He just talked about that before. He talks about how he led into why he wanted to do the Half IronMan in Dunleary, near where he lives. So he talks about what inspired him to do the Half IronMan and how he got on the training leading up to the event itself, and some things that had to be changed on race day.
I actually live out, you probably see from the runs in the Road Club, I live out near Dunleary. So one of the big events each year down here is the Dunleary Half IronMan. And it was 2018 at this point. I think we'd been out the night before, myself and my girlfriend, and we just woke up in a little bit of a hangover. Kind of said, go out and grab a coffee. I happened to stroll down. I'd forgotten it was actually on. And there's a few kids down the end, like just absolute furore and great environment. And the two of us with a bit kind of fuzzy head, kind of strolling down, going, "Oh Jesus!"
Feeling guilty.
Yeah, exactly. And it was pure coincidence. And it was one of these things you hear about and you go, there's no way that possibly happened. But kind of rock up to the finish line, and literally 5 seconds of coming up to the finish line, your man who wins the thing literally comes running down the chute, and I'm like, that's bizarrely coincidental timing.
It's a sign.
Yeah, exactly. And it probably shows my attitude towards these things, in that the girlfriend was looking at it all, just going, why are people mental enough to put themselves through this, and not only put themselves through it, but to pay for it? And at the same time, I was thinking, Jesus, I can't wait to do this. I have to do this. It was just such an emotional moment, like seeing your man cross the line, people just so caught up in it, and like something, not only he, being a professional athlete, but also all the subsequent finishers had worked so hard towards achieving. It was a really great showcase of, I suppose, what you can do with sport, and how it's not. That's probably why I quite like triathlon as well. Is it's not just for the elites. It's the same as running in that the elite set off and the amateur set off, and you all finish together wherever you do it or however you do it. So yeah, it was just it's a really kind of standout point for me in that I saw that happen and said, yeah, I have to do this. And so
it's true as well. When we did the marathon, we didn't see it before we did it. We just signed up and said we did it. But my mum was 62 years of age now, or 62 or 3. Sorry, mum. But she was standing at the finish line watching people, and she got in early, about 11 o'clock, and all she did was watch people cross the finish line. And she was so inspired by watching everyone clapping these people and the smiles on their faces. She was like, I'm going to do a marathon. It's one bit of advice I'm going to say, Daniel. If you ever think you don't want to do a marathon, go to the finish line of a marathon, an Ironman, a triathlon, any of these events, watch the smiles on the faces of people finishing and watch the excitement of the people clapping them through. It's one of the best experiences. The final 2K of any race, no matter what the size, is brilliant. And it's just you get such a buzz from it.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. It's just inspirational to see, and the thing is, you really realize when you're out there that, you see finishing pictures and all this good stuff, and you see books and posts online and all this, and it tends to be these kind of uber fit athletes finishing it. But when you're on the finish line, you just see it's everyone. It's just people passing the street. It's your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, your brother, your sister, and some of them are special and some of them work really hard towards it, and kudos to them. But a lot of these people are just doing it to take off something on a bucket list, and could have been working towards it for years, and it's something they've always promised themselves they'll do, and you really see that come out on the finish line. I couldn't agree with you more. It's brilliant to see and really, really inspirational. So coming off the back of that, I said to myself, I have to do this. I've been running for a good bit at that point. I probably started to lose a bit of weight. I think in total over that year, I probably lost about 3 stone or so. It was a good old drop. And that doesn't say how light I am now. That says how heavy I was at the start more than anything. And it was slowly but surely. And then you kind of, if you look at it each week, you don't notice it, but over the course of a period of time, you definitely do. So I said I'd do that. And probably the biggest fear in my mind at that time was the swim. I grew up down the country in a place called Skull in West Cork, which is on the water. So I was kind of quite familiar with the water. I sailed a lot, windsurfed, surfed, and did a bit of swimming. Nothing competitive, but just jumping in the sea. But it's definitely an intimidation factor when it comes to doing a triathlon. So my first thing was, if I have to wait a year to do this event, I'm going to make this become way too big a thing in my head. So the way the triathlon season works in Ireland is it's only allowed to happen in certain months because of the water temperature. So that was in the end of August, and I basically had until the end of September to do a triathlon or wait till next year. So I basically went onto the website and found the latest triathlon I could do in the next month at the end of September to give myself some chance to train a bit. Got myself a bike, borrowed a bike off a friend from work, and spent about a month training to do just a sprint triathlon, so short enough, but just introduce myself to it and kind of basically make myself feel like this is an achievable thing to do. I'm sure you'll have to do it longer, but don't be put off by anything in particular. So did that at the end of September up in Louth in Pulseport Beach is the triathlon, and just absolutely loved it. Never have felt so welcomed. I went up there by myself. I went up there to do it by myself. My girlfriend came along with me. She's great support on all these days. But was doing it myself, and it was kind of quite lonely going up. I've no idea what to expect from this. I don't know anyone who's in this sport. And was blown away by the day. There was a great talk beforehand going, how many of you haven't done one of these before? And you can officially call yourself a triathlete afterwards. And it was really, really nice stuff. And I remember walking away and someone had just stopped me. He'd noticed beforehand. It goes, well done on your first one and welcome to the community. And it was really a case of, no one cared about your time or what you'd done or how far up you'd placed. Everyone was just so supportive of just doing it for the sake of doing it and enjoying it, and it was a really, really enjoyable experience, and just completely reconfirmed everything about why I wanted to do the Dunleary Half IronMan the following year. So with that under the belt, I said, grand, let's kick on. But obviously then you're pretty much a year out from doing it, so I kind of wanted to focus on a few things in between to keep motivation going. Seán, you were asking at the start, how'd you end up running a marathon for yourself? And it's only recently I've done that. Definitely back then I was much more goal orientated and I needed to have events to work towards. So signed up for a half marathon the following March. A couple of the girls I knew go down to Galway and do it each year in Kinvara. And I said, grand, I'll do that. That's something to work towards in these cold winter months. And I'll try to keep up a bit of cycling and swimming in the pool or something in between. So kind of work through the winter doing that. And I tend to have the type of personality that becomes a little bit all or nothing. Like when I was out of sport, as I was saying, I had a good bit of weight. I'd sit on the couch every weekend, just eating whatever, kind of enjoying life and going out a good bit. And then when I started getting into this, it was slowly but surely. But once it kind of clicked, I was like, no, this is it. I'm very focused on this now. And started noticing myself just changing kind of all around my lifestyle really towards these goals. So I didn't stop going out, but I probably cut down the frequency of what I was going out. And as opposed to maybe having like a beer with dinner every day, I might just get a non-alcoholic beer Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and just kind of enjoy the weekend a bit more as a result of that. And slowly but surely it kind of all starts clicking together, and I start reading up on everything and researching everything and getting really focused on this stuff. So the competitive side starts coming out, and one of the girls had run this half marathon the previous year, and I think about 140 something, And then straight away, having never done, I did the Dublin Marathon years ago, but falling out of it and having never done a half marathon before, I said, "Grand, I have to beat her time. That's just the match." What else can you do? But set a goal and just go for it. And there she's protesting, going, "It's not fair, you know. Why do you have to pick on me?" But it's the way I get myself going. And it's a good thing and it's a bad thing in different circumstances. Like, you know, I'd race you to the door. Kind of pissed off with that, and that's fair enough. But definitely in instances like this, it brings out the best of me. So, yeah, I was hammering away for the winter. Like, getting out and cycling in December and January can be a bleak enough thing. And I was doing
I can't do it. It's the most miserable time of year. I really hate it. I do a lot of indoor cycling because I just can't get out. It's miserable.
Yeah. No, and I've invested in a trainer now for those cold and days.
I'm gonna have to do it myself.
Back then I didn't have it, and I didn't really know anyone in the sport as well. So like I remember probably the highlight of my winter was I think it was January 3rd or something. I'd just come back from Christmas down in Cork, and I said, "Grand, I'll jump back on the bike and try get back in the swing of things after Christmas." And I was heading up towards Roundwood, trying to do like a good replica of the course. And I was by myself, and I'd probably like 2 or 3 hours in. I hadn't gone that far because I wasn't exactly fit at that point. But I remember just pulling over on the side of the road in the pouring rain, thinking, I'm so far from home. What if I get a puncture? You know, what if anything happens? And I just sat there and cried for about, I'd say, 10 minutes. This is bleak. Like, why am I doing this to myself? You know, like no one else is out here doing this. They're all still like probably enjoying their Christmas holidays. And I'm forcing myself through this. So I just turned around, went home, kind of let the tears wash off in the rain, and said, "We won't tell anyone about that."
You do a podcast.
But it's that kind of attitude of just, you know, getting out and doing it, and at least trying. That's something that's rung true for me, and like slowly but surely you get better at it and you get more comfortable at it, and you know you've at least tried it before, and it becomes a bit more kind of familiar to you. So it was working through that year towards the Half IronMan, which was the big goal for me that year. Got through training, and then my cousin, who'd actually ran the marathon all the way back in 2011, and I'd been living with, turns out he'd signed up for it too, and the two of us start getting training together, and all of a sudden things get a lot better, because, you know, heading out for 4-hour cycles by yourself can be a bleak prospect at the best times. And you do need a bit of, I think, camaraderie. You know, I think if it's someone in person, or if it's like we have in the run group, like there's people I've seen regularly posting it now, and I'm like, fair play to you. And like seeing them get out for their 2-3 runs or 3-4 runs each week kind of keeps me thinking, going, Jesus, why have I any excuse for it if they're getting out and doing it?
And it's 100%. And even us as running the club, like this morning I was feeling very sorry for myself, and it was a long run day. But I was seeing everyone else putting in such a big effort. I'm like, who am I to be telling people to get out? I don't follow my own advice. And all these people have already done the run. Reuben's been up in the mountains. I was like, for God's sake. So today I actually was really annoyed with you. So I was in the Phoenix Park, and I usually run kind of with the hill, so I get more of a downhill than the uphill. And I was like, no, not today. So today I went on the harder run. And then I was absolutely goosed for the finish. I had to increase the pace for that final 58 minutes. And because I'd gone up and down the hills in the hard way, I was absolutely wrecked. I was like cursing you for the final. But it just shows, like, when people are encouraging each other, and me and Seán don't even have to comment on everyone's now. People are starting to do it for us. They're starting to really get involved and like each other's stuff and say well done. And that's what we're trying to build. And look what it's done to you now. You're into, you and your cousin, after long cycles, and you're going to do your first half Ironman.
Yeah, no, I can't agree with you more. And like I'd say, when you set it up back at the start of the year, you probably didn't even expect it to go as far as it did, but it's almost taken on a life of itself. As you say, people kind of helping each other out, and it's brilliant to see. It honestly is really inspiring just to see like these people go through what I did back then when I was just getting out on the road for the first time, kind of going for a short run around the block. And like, I suppose the hard thing to realize at the start is that you're not going to get results immediately. Running in that regard is actually quite tough, in that, you know, if someone said to you, if I run consistently for 4 weeks, do you think I'll be good at it at the end of a month or 2 months? And it, honestly, like, it's probably not. Like, I think it was realistically for me, it was probably 6 months of just casually picking it up each week, maybe 2 or 3 times before I actually felt comfortable doing, a 30-minute run. And
you probably hated running for those 6 months. Everyone hates running.
Yeah. It was
you cross that line and no longer hate it, you then need it. It's amazing. And once you get there, it's brilliant.
So it was definitely replicating my experience.
Talk to us. How was your half Ironman? This is where I'm getting to now. I want to know how it is.
So went at it, pretty consistently. It was tough to juggle work and training, and then also personal life and family life. But turned up on the morning of it, having done a few more kind of tester triathlons in the build up to it, just to get that kind of race familiarity. It's on the doorstep, so I had a lovely setup. And there's people flying internationally for these things, getting ferries over from the UK and stuff. And here's me kind of going, I just walk out the front door, like literally I'd say about 500 meters from the front door. So turned up on race day. It was there was obviously changes to it because we were really unfortunate in that basically about 10 minutes after the pro set off, this fog that I've never seen as low in my life in Dún Laoghaire decides to roll in, and visibility goes from 1 kilometre to probably like 10 meters. And to be fair to Triathlon Ireland, they're brilliant in that safety is absolute paramount, and they're not afraid to make dramatic changes to put people in a safe environment. So unfortunately for us, in the sense that we didn't get to do the full, I suppose, race day equivalent, or swim was cut from 1.9 kilometers to 1 kilometer on race morning, just for visibility reasons, so that they had to redesign the course, and they did it on the fly. It was very well done. We head off for the swim and go kind of across the bay in Dún Laoghaire into the landing area, and you're off on the bike up through the Wicklow Hills, which are tough to say the least. There's a bit of climbing in them as well. It's not a flat one. And that was brutal. But again, someone had made a comment to me during the year that you couldn't do the Ironman course in under 3 hours unless you were a professional cyclist or something like this. The bike part of it is, and it just stuck with me. And I was like, that's not a fair comment to make. And he's like, he doesn't know me. So it just got stuck in my head. And this goes against all the conventional wisdom in that I just absolutely took off on the bike. There was no, you're supposed to do like 30 minutes easy and kind of set your way in, because it's a long cycle, about 90 kilometers, and you've got a half marathon to go at the end of it, so you're supposed to pace yourself. And I said, no, screw that, I'm off here. And like the amount of people I overtook in the first kilometer was just ridiculous, because they're all doing what you're supposed to do and just ease your way in. And I'm there like 50 kilometers an hour trying to get people out of my way, flying around like a maniac. And I think it was around Roundwood, where I'd broken down crying the last time, that the cramps started creeping in. And I said, oh Jesus, I'm an hour in to here, 30 kilometers in. This is very early on to be getting cramps. And I'd never ever gotten cramps before in training or anything beforehand. And it was very unfamiliar territory. And I was like, oh Jesus, I've done something wrong here. And like at first they were just kind of like little kind of like pangs of pain, that kind of subside and go away. And then they became to the point where like you'd be sitting down on the bike and I'd literally be thrown out of my seat because my quads would seize up so much. So I was really in unfamiliar territory, but at the same time still had this kind of goal in mind of doing a certain time. And the way the course is you're basically climbing for the first half and then you're descending for the second half. And I said, all right, I have 15 kilometers to go until I can kind of start to take it easy. I'll just try keep at it here. So kept going, managed to get up through the Sally Gap and was heading back down, and looked like I was on for a good time. And slowly but surely kind of getting towards the 3 hours, but the kilometers are falling and I'm starting to realize, Jesus, I might do this in under 3 hours and prove my point. Detriment to the rest of the race. And I remember getting in, I did it in 2 hours and 58 minutes, and there was tears in my eyes as I was coming across. Like I had a half marathon to go, but in my head I'd proven everything I needed to at that point. For no reason, again, other than the fact that someone had made a comment and I was like, I'm just going to prove them wrong. And that kept me going. So grand into the tent and set out for the run. And that was brutal. I definitely made a mistake on the bike. Yeah, I'd done the Kinvara half marathon earlier in the year, and I did that in about 1:39 in awful conditions and on a tough course, because there is a bit of climbing for the first third of it.
Yeah.
And off the back of what I've done in this bike now, I think I did the half marathon at just about the 2 hour mark, and I was struggling. Like, my right calf cramped up so badly that each time I was taking a step, because I was probably walking at that point, my foot would actually turn inwards and clip off the other leg. So I was sorry staying up there by the time I was going across the finish line. But I got there in the end, and was delighted with myself for just achieving it.
And our final guest, is guest the right word? We can do look backs in the podcast. I'm not too sure, but in this one we talk with, well, I say we, I wasn't on this podcast again. Eric talks with his good friend back in college, Rachel Farrel, and how she went from just doing swimming only to building up to do triathlons to qualifying for the World Championships in Nice, and how she got on in those World Championships. Guys, check it out.
But you were actually a phenomenal swimmer. I remember when I got you to swim that race, I was amazed by your swimming. Your swimming is quite a high standard, and it's something I'm not very comfortable with at all, swimming, particularly in the open water. But then when we left college, obviously we go our separate ways. I went my career, you went teaching, then you did a bit of travelling, am I right?
Yeah, so I worked as a teacher for a couple of years, and then when I secured a permanent post, I took a career break and then headed over to the Middle East, to Oman. And I suppose the whole Ironman journey then started from there. So just before I went to Oman, I think it might have been July 2018, I did my first triathlon in Athlone. Again, that was kind of just pure random, complete bucket list kind of thing. One of my friends from Badminton was like, "Oh, will you do this triathlon with me just for the crack? It's only like a short one." It was a sprint one. So like the run was only like 5K. I was like, surely I'll manage that. Like, I wasn't a runner at all. And the swim I knew would be fine. It was only 750 meters. And then the bike, I was like, sure, how hard can biking be? And it was all flat anyway. So borrowed, I think it was his like friend's bike for that, and borrowed all the gear, the helmet, borrowed a tri-suit, and did that and had like such good crack. And then I was like, God, if I was only staying in Ireland, I'd definitely sign up with the Galway Tri Club. So then, as I said, I was moving abroad then, I think it was a month or two after. And when I got to Oman, immediately I looked up, is there any triathlon clubs? And I kind of felt a bit like unhealthy. Like, I was always fit, like, but I wanted to lose a little bit of weight. So I looked up a tri club and a running club. So just from there, then I kind of started meeting, like, I suppose, like-minded people and the same kind of buzz that I got from the triathlon back at home. And before I knew it, then it was Christmas and was going to fly home for Christmas. And I remember seeing like an IronMan sign at the side of the road saying that the IronMan was going to be held in Oman in February. And I was like, oh my God, class, like, and thinking it would just be unreal to do, but not kind of thinking about the distance. It was like 4 times what I had just done. And I forgot to mention, in the meantime, I think it was October, I did an Olympic distance in Oman. And that was like, it's the run that kind of killed me. So the run was like 10K. And I remember after the event, I was sitting on the wall and I was like, that was horrific. I'm never, ever, ever doing anything like that ever again. Like, I was like puking, like it was so hard.
Sorry, yeah, I kind of did you an injustice in the introduction there. I just got sidetracked trying to protect myself, and you were ruining my good name and how bad I was in college. But you were a swimmer, and that was the point I probably should have made. You were not a runner. You weren't a cyclist.
Oh God, no.
You, bar the water, you were an absolute fish in water, but out of that, I never knew you to run anywhere. And that's why when I seen you to kind of backfill, I seen you doing triathlons, I was like, what?
What's going on?
I've never seen her cycle. So just for people listening, this then brings us into the story of a man and you getting this buzz from Athlone to give it a go, and now you're sitting on the wall. You just ran 10K, you're about to get sick, but the journey doesn't stop there.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I actually hated running like when I was younger. Like, as I said, I swam and I did badminton, like, and I did a bit of CrossFit, so there was no running involved. Like, so for me to do that Olympic distance, I just thought it was so hard, like, and especially running a 10K after coming off a bike. Like, I think people underestimate the feeling in your legs. Like,
the jelly leg feeling for 2 kilometers.
Stop.
You're running left, you're running right, you're all over the place.
So that was October, and I swore, I was like, you can ask loads of my friends in Oman, I was like, I'm never doing anything like this again. This is actually horrible. I feel sick. And then, as I was saying, saw the sign for Ironman. I was like, oh my God. Bearing in mind, this is double the distance of the Olympic. that I just said I'd never do again. And then sitting there in the apartment, I think a couple of days before I was due to fly home, and I was like, feck it, if I don't sign up for this now, I'm definitely not going to do it when I come back after Christmas, because I'll be filled with drink and chocolate and sweets, going home for Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas is dangerous.
Yeah. So signed up, and I think it was like €400 or something. So I knew I'd kind of commit to it. So went home, had a good time, but like kind of maintained a little bit of like fitness or whatever. So then when I came back, I had 8 weeks to train for this Ironman.
Like, I'm 5 weeks into a half marathon training program, and you gave yourself 8 weeks for a half Ironman. Like, it's not a lot of time.
It's crazy.
It could be done. It could be done.
100%, like, because as I said, like, if I can do it, anyone can do it, really, like, they can. And I think the fact that I was in another country and not knowing anyone, there's no pressure, like, nobody was going to know about this event that I did, like, I wasn't going to be posting it anywhere. Well, little did I think anyway. So, trained really hard, in fairness, for the 8 weeks, January and February. I think it was on the end of February or something like that. So, yeah, hadn't a clue going in on race day, like, was just so naive and was just like, oh yeah, just going to see how I get on. Do you know, like, bucket list thing to do. You don't really care, like, and I'd made loads of friends and we were all doing it together, and it was great crack, like, there was no pressure. So then just kind of, did that and got on race day, I suppose. Once I got into it, like, I was absolutely, like, buzzing to go. And raced really well on the day and ended up coming second in my age group, and I was like, what? And then after, I remember one of the guys who's really into, like, Ironmans and triathlons over there, he was like, you qualified for the World Championships. I was like, what? I actually was like, what is he talking about? What even is that? Like, I didn't even know what the World Championships was. Like, I didn't even know if it was the thing. And he's like, you have to go to the award ceremony tonight and take your slot. I was like, what? And I remember my friend was with me at the time, and we were like, what's he talking about? So I was kind of still on a high, like, after finishing the race. So anyway, went home, showered and all that, and obviously was going back to the award ceremony, but had looked up what he was talking about. And basically, if you come first, second and third, or there were certain slots allocated.
One to 4 or whatever it is.
Something like that, yeah. So he was right, like, so I was like, oh my God, like, World Championships, will I go? And he was like, I remember he put it into perspective. He was like, he said something crazy, like, he was like, I'd kill one of my kids to get to go to the World Championships. He was like, this is insane. He was like, I've worked all my life to try and get to this. He's like, you have to take it, like, and like, I was kind of thinking, this is something I only wanted to do once off, but if it's this serious, maybe I should take that slot.
Yeah.
And like, yeah. So anyway, went to the award ceremony and took the slot. And and that kind of led to a whole different.
Just as Ray said, I might do a race, I mightn't post it, see what happens. Then you post it. I see it on your Instagram. We haven't really seen each other in a few years. We're all gone our different ways and stuff. I see it on your Instagram that you finished second in the All-Man Ironman in your age group. You're now going to the World Championships. And I'm like, what the hell has happened in the last 3 years?
So
and
funny,
like, I had just gotten into this. I don't know what it was. It was around the time you did that Half IronMan in February. Myself and Tom in the previous episode, we took that notion that we were going to go, right, we're giving triathlons a go. I was proud of just done. I understand that feeling. I signed up to do an Olympic, did it, nearly died, but then somewhere along the way I said I was going to do 4 in a row, 4 Olympics in 4 weeks. Didn't think it was possible to end up doing it. But what drove me to that, and what I said to you before we came on as well, I was getting into it. I seen you did the Half Ironman, finished second in your age category. I knew you hated running. I'd never seen you on a bike. I knew you were a great swimmer, so I would say you would have a great chance of finishing high with that. But the work you did to get there, and then I was like, I can definitely do a triathlon. I was so inspired by you winning and qualifying for World Championships. I'd never heard of Ironman. I'd never really heard of triathlons. I hadn't even got a swimming hat at the time. I could barely swim 2 lengths of the pool. I'd no bike, like yourself, but I was so inspired by your story. I was like, this is unbelievable, because it was only really, not that we just stalk your Instagram, but like the odd bike pick, and we're all out for a job. Now I'm going to the World Championships. Thanks very much. It was like unbelievable. It was such a good story. And
it's
then
crazy,
you trained anyway. You came back from Oman then in the summer for a couple of weeks, and you asked me to come down. I was still on my buzz from thinking I was great doing Olympics and not drowning or dying. But We said we do a sprint triathlon 2 weeks before Nice. The Tri-Lakes triathlon. We said we give it a spin. I jumped at the opportunity because I was like, I get to be in the same race as the person who's gone to the World Championships. So I'm not 100% going. So went down, drove 3.5 hours to the back end of Mayo to join in some triathlon. I was winding you up for
Oh my God. I was sick talking to you, like.
Yeah, I was telling you I was going to catch you on the run, I was going to do this, and I was going to embarrass the world champion. I think you were finishing your 5k run, and I was only getting going on my 5k. So I think there was substantial difference between the two of us. But
you had all the talk, though.
I would like to take credit that was in your head when you were in the water, on the bike, on the run. It gave you a good push 2 weeks before. I'm taking credit. Best coach you've ever had.
It definitely did. I was like, where's Eric?
Nowhere to be seen as expected. But no, but genuinely, you really did. I was trying to go to Nice with you. It was very lastminute.com, and I was in training at the time, and I couldn't get the time off work. I think it was like 2 weeks before, and I had to leave in, and it just didn't get approved. And I was raging. I was going to be going to the World Championships to watch you compete, and it didn't come to fruition.
I know. I was so excited. I was actually looking so hopeful there for a long time.
Yeah, it was looking good, and the flights, and you had a couple of friends, and I was just going to be kind of like yourself, my man. Like, when you see the signs, see all these great athletes, like, I know you probably didn't really understand either, because you were just showing up in your Saw Doctor's t-shirt and looking around. And
the bogger from Ireland.
Oh, yeah. Whereas I was like, this is the World Championship. I think I was more excited than you, and you were like, yeah, like, it's grand. No, it's all right. Like, nothing fazed you. It was absolutely unbelievable. So you went to Nice, the World Championships. I didn't get to go, so I can't tell this story.
Devo.
How was it? How was it the starting line? How was the pre-race kind of, what you call them, kind of stalls?
Jitters.
Yeah, and like, you go beforehand, it's like a pre-event, and you get all your gear ready, and you go down to the gate, and you're putting all your food in your bag. And what was it like seeing all these like top athletes?
It's just crazy. I was like, you kind of have to keep pinching yourself. It's like, what am I doing here? Like, because seeing all the athletes, like, they were all just absolutely ripped. Everyone looked so healthy. Like, it provided me with huge inspiration. Like, it definitely motivated me to like really race hard. Like, and it was just class. It was almost like a rave without like the drink and the pills. Kind of.
I only understand the one part of that. But,
yeah. But like the start line, they had like a live DJ, and they were playing like Tiesto, and like, it was just absolutely class. Like, and I had goosebumps all over me. Like, and then like the shotguns for like letting people off into the water. It's just, like, even when I finished the swim, I remember just like looking around. I was like, this is unbelievable. Like,
and what goes through your head? Because obviously, I know from being in the water, my biggest fear in life in general is open water, a big fear of mine. So I know a lot goes through my head in those times. But you're such a confident swimmer. When you're in that race, World Championships, there's feet just kicking around you. What's going through your head when you're just in the water with just your thoughts?
Yeah, like, to be honest, I have to say it is quite scary. Like, even, I suppose I'd be a confident swimmer, but like, I was absolutely bricking it, because there was people all around me. Like, in fairness, there were people pulling your legs, there's people banging into you, trying to get ahead of you, swimming over you. Like, it's quite daunting. Like, I think, but you just kind of have to embrace it and kind of move away from the crowd and just try to get on with it. But then once you're out of the swim, you're completely safe. Like,
yeah, it is a big difference. I always say that once I get out of the water, the race is over. I'm just going for a cycle.
Yeah.
And then you're on the bike. You're in the south of France. Sun's shining. There's yachts all over the place. And here's Rachel Farrel from Mayo, Galway area, in the World Championships with everyone
again,
with
like,
second names and bikes and
pinching myself.
You didn't even know where you were cycling. You were just off you went.
Yeah, it was just class. Like, again, just complete sense of exploration. Like, where am I going now? And like, it was a really, really hilly route as well. I think it's notorious for that. I think part of it is on like the Tour de France. So like, it was literally like 45 kilometers up and the rest down. So like, it was just so scenic. It was absolutely fab. Like, I was just loving it. Like, I really took it all in. Like, I wasn't completely head down the whole time. Like, I did take time to look around and, you know, kind of embrace the whole experience, because you're only going to be there once. Like, And there was a nice sense of camaraderie as well with other athletes from literally you don't know where, like, but even when you're going up the hill, and I remember there was a girl beside me and she was really struggling, like I think she was getting off her bike actually, but like the amount of people that passed her and were like, come on, you can do it, get back up on your bike, you're well able. It's just actually lovely to see, like, although it's a World Championships race, like there's still that sense of, like, I suppose everyone has respect for each other because they know what it took to get there, like.
Yeah, and it, even like you said, in the water you're pulling, you're dragging, they're swimming over you, they're doing everything to get ahead because it is a competition. And at that starting block, you're with the people who want to be world champion. Like,
yeah.
But by the time you get on your bike, the field is separated out, and then everyone crosses the line together. And it's something that I love about triathlon. And when we chatted on our bike, when we were cycling back to the car after triathlon, it's just something we both said that since we got into it, it's just the atmosphere involved in that kind of race, and in people 100%. That do long distance and triathlons and IronMan. And as I've said, now we were watching at home, me and all your friends, understanding that kind of buzz, and everyone was cheering you on. We were watching the live link of you slowly climbing up the hill, watching your time.
Yeah.
Come on, Rachel! Not knowing that it was a big climb and you were coming down the far side, but it was unbelievable to watch.
What's taking you so long?
Yeah, I'm telling you, a good thing I wouldn't go. I would have fell asleep at the finish line.
Yeah.
But you came down the hill on the far side. It was lightning quick because I was kind of like judging, right, just halfway through, so I time. And then I left the laptop because I didn't want to embarrass you. Watch your second slow half of cycling, but it was the downhill half. Then you get off the bike, and again, just to bring it back to everyone listening, you never ran further than a kilometre in college. And now you're about to take on a half marathon after cycling 90 kilometres, swimming just over 2K, just under 2K?
Yeah, 1.9, yeah.
1.9. And now you're about to run a half marathon in the south of France in 23 days. What's going through your head now?
So, like, I remember getting off the bike, and my whole family were there, and I had friends there as well. They all kind of scattered out, so there was kind of someone nearly everywhere. Like, so
one was like, there, yeah. Thanks very much,
Rachel. Yeah. The run was like up and down the prom, I think 4 times. So, like, there was somebody at each kind of phase. So that kind of kept me going, and I remember being so happy. I was like, this is crazy. Like, why am I so happy? This isn't normal. Like, obviously it was so hard and you're so exposed to the heat on the prom and stuff, but I suppose I kind of wanted to do my family proud and my friends and show them that, I suppose, I don't know, I wanted to thank them for coming over, kind of. I just wanted to do well. So that kind of kept me going, and seeing all the other athletes gives you a huge sense of motivation, like, as well.
And as well, because you're up and down, you're seeing them constantly. You're seeing people constantly, and the route, just to kind of describe it, it's kind of like 2 lanes, one's going one way, one's going the other. You're constantly seeing each other, and you're seeing all the top guys heading in, and you're trying to keep pace and seeing the same faces. But that last 2K is lined with people, isn't it?
Oh my God, it's crazy. Like, they had like drummers and like people playing the trumpets, and like, oh, it's just class. Like, just goosebumps, like the whole, I pretty much had goosebumps every time I saw someone I knew. And then when the drums started going, and then when you can see the red carpet, you're like, oh my God, like, it's nearly over. Like, you almost kind of want to keep running, like, and then you just cross the finish line, and then when you stop, your body's like,
what did you just do to me?
Yeah.
I remember watching you cross the finish line, and before you, I don't know if anyone ever told you this, before you, like, at least 4 or 5 women, as soon as they crossed, like, fell off either side of the walkway down, because it was kind of a bit of a hill after you finised.
Yeah.
Fell either side, and like medics were running, and I was watching you coming down. I was like, oh, please, God, don't collapse on camera. Please don't collapse on camera. Because you have Rachel Farrel, Ireland, in the big black tri-suit. Here she comes. But you crossed the line, and you were just like, hey!
Yeah,
like,
oh my God, like,
it was like
crazy.
Professionals in a jogger on the ground, and Rachel's there getting champagne and having a great time.
I was just so buzzed up, like, and then my brother had like thrown the Irish flag at me just before the finish line, and I was like, that like just fired me up altogether. I was like, ah!
Yeah, it looked absolutely brilliant. And Austin last week was talking about doing this 50K, 53K ultra, but he said that finish line feeling of accomplishing something so big is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And accomplished it from only starting a year and a half prior is absolutely unbelievable. And it's a massive inspiration to anyone who listens, that you went from just getting on a bike to now competing in the World Championships. But that wasn't good enough for you.
Stop, Eric.
No, that wasn't. You had to go and show off and make me feel really bad. You went back to Oman, didn't you?
I suppose I had to. I went to see my friends. I went visiting.
Give you credit. You have a big love for it. It's where it started off for you. A lot of people told you to go to World Championships and stuff. You said it to me at the Christmas. I just come through the marathon and I did a few adventure races. Me wasn't great. You were like, "You want to do the half Ironman?" No, man. And for a few minutes, maybe a few days, maybe a week or two, I was half convinced to go and do it with you because there were still tickets. But you signed up. You were going back to do the half Ironman. It was a nice visit back. Obviously, winter training in Ireland is absolutely terrible. So going back to the heat definitely made a nice difference to the training.
Yeah.
And you competed again in Oman, take 2. How was it?
Oh, it was fab. Like, I suppose I felt like kind of like a little bit of pressure on myself though. Like, because going into the first race in Oman, I was like so naive, didn't have a care in the world. But I think take 2, I kind of felt like I kind of had to prove myself, even though I may not have kind of said that to people. But like, it's kind of just how I felt. I was like, God, I really have work to do here. Like, do you know, there's that little bit of pressure. So I put a lot of pressure on myself. I'd set like 5 really specific goals, like a swim time, a bike time, and a run time. And then I wanted to like finish first in my age group and then qualify. So like going in with all those targets, it does put a lot of pressure on yourself. But I suppose thankfully kind of executed a good enough race and reached 4 out of 5 of the targets.
Yeah. So watching it, so the race itself, I had high expectations because I'd seen the amount of training you were doing over the winter, and you were going back. You knew the course, and we always said doing marathons. When you know the course, mentally you kind of have an advantage because you know this bit. Geez, I'm ahead of time, and that gives you that little bit of a kick. But I want to ask you about that feeling when you came out of the water, and there's a guy jogging in front of you holding a sign that says "First Lady."
I know. I was like, oh my God.
You were in the lead of a half Ironman competition coming out of swimming.
No,
how did that
crazy.
feel? Were you kind of like, is that for me?
I was like looking around. I was like, no, that's not for me. Like, crazy. Like, again, as I say, just surreal kind of goosebump kind of feeling. And then when I heard like some of my friends, or 2 of my friends were pregnant, so they couldn't race. I would have raced with them last year. So they were like really vocal on the line, and like they had all the proper terms of telling me what was going on. When I heard them saying it, they were like, "You're first." I was like, "Oh my God, stop. This is too much. I can't. And then the man with the camera like followed me literally from coming out of the water the whole way up the ramp, gone to get my bike, followed me the whole way to the line. I was like, "This is too much. I can't."
I could tell because I was watching it, and I could tell your face wasn't going red from the swim. You could see the camera, and you had like a little side eye at it a few times, and he was following you the whole way because the first lady gets followed. You are the person of interest. But obviously the others, the world that they were doing it nearly professionally, started to catch up with you shortly afterwards.
Yeah.
And we say,
thank God.
you were nearly pushing them on. Please. What's at home? And for me, it was like almost going doing this, doing a triathlon with you. I'm like watching the scene of Rachel coming out of the water first, lead lady. It was absolutely pandemonium. I was sending texts around everyone. I was like, "You'll not believe it. She's first." I was disappointed with you that you let everyone else pass you. But
stop.
We want to talk about it. So you got on the bike. You led in your age group. You got passed out by a couple of people on the bike. It wasn't many people on the bike though.
A couple of people, yeah. The first one that passed me, I was like, oh my God, was Natasha Badman. She's like known as like the Queen of Kona. I think she's 6 times world champion. And like, I remember
held her at bay for a decent portion.
Oh, but she killed me then. Like after that,
but still, you got one up in there for the first time. You're haunting her sleep.
Oh, but she's just so nice. Like again, that kind of shows you the camaraderie of the sport. Like I remember her passing me out, and she was just like, "Well done, it's amazing, you're doing amazing." And just because I had seen her last year and I'd raced against her, obviously in Oman last year, and she was gone. Like, but I remember seeing her after at the awards, and it was like, "Oh my gosh, like she's such an inspiration." So to kind of see her, then I was like, "Oh my God, crazy!" Like, mad.
It is great, and you see, like Kona is the creme de la creme of Ironman. It's in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It's where the best of the best want to do. And this, I don't know how you can even describe it for someone. It's your Ronaldo footballer. It's your Lance Armstrong cyclist. It's the pinnacle of the sport, and they're just looking at you saying, "Geez, you're really good. Well done." And off they go. Like, you're part of that. Like, it's a really nice feeling, like.
Yeah. So she was lovely, like really, really nice person.
So you came in Oman, you got on for your lovely running legs that you only developed over the last 2, and you held on to do what? What average was it?
What was the run? I planned to do 140, but that didn't happen. I think it ended up 148, I think.
You're a terrible athlete.
Oh, I was actually disgusted, like, but I suppose.
I know you were. That's why I'm taking digs.
You're so mean. I suppose that's. Oh, yeah, I was disgusted with my run. I don't know what happened. I don't know.
But you'd worked hard. I suppose when you look back at it, you'd put all that pressure on yourself. Probably burnt a lot of energy with the nerves.
Yeah.
Worked hard in the swim, pushed hard on the cycle, and then you were just holding on, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it worked, and the reason it worked is because you didn't finish second this time, did you?
Third.
Huh?
Third.
But you qualified for the World Championships.
No, I was happy to finish first. I'm only messing.
You finished first.
In my age group, not first now overall.
Oh, well, like, you were against a 6-time World Championship professional athlete and everyone else, but you finished first in your age group. So in that race, you are the best 20 to 29-year-old in Oman. And just to backtrack, in Nice, in your age group, 200 ladies took part, and you finished 48 in the World Championships, and you're doing triathlons a year and a half, which is absolutely phenomenal.
So that was something different in terms of the podcast there, guys. Something a little bit different. I think it was a little bit better than me ranting, especially in the first 3-4 minutes of the podcast. But in general, it was just something a little bit different. We wanted to keep going, keep consistency. And we talk about consistency in our running and our training all the time. And we haven't actually missed a podcast so far this year. On Mondays, on bank holidays, we usually do a Tuesday episode, just the way things fall. But with the exception of that, we haven't missed one all year. So I wanted to get something out to you guys that I feel is valuable. And maybe listening to those stories, you might be like, you know what, I really want to sign up for an event right now and try and make something with 2021 in terms of building up to an event, setting your training goals there, because things are opening up, as we've talked about already, and hopefully some of these events will go ahead. I know that I got an email recently enough from Quest, and they run the Sea to Summit as far as I know, so hopefully that goes ahead in Mayo this year. I'm not 100% sure, but hopefully that does, and I'm sure other events are starting to open up, probably limited capacity, but at the same time, hell of a lot better than what we dealt with in 2020. And my fingers are still crossed. I know I talk about every week. My fingers and toes and everything are crossed. My arms are crossed. My legs are crossed. Everything is crossed right now for the announcement on June 25th, because I'm hoping the Dublin Marathon goes ahead. I don't know what I'm going to do if it's not, but I really do hope it goes ahead. Guys, thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. If you did enjoy this week's episode of the podcast, or if there's anything you would like to hear about, or any guests you would think would be a good fit for us on any given training day, hit us up on Instagram at Any Given Training Day. Hit us up on the DMs, let us know. And if you are enjoying the podcast, we have one small favour to ask, especially if you're enjoying the podcast on Apple Podcasts. If you could just hit a quick review of the podcast, give it a 5-star review, help us get it out there a little bit more. We really would appreciate that. Or even if you don't have Apple Podcasts, sharing it into your Instagram stories, tagging us in it as well would be fantastic, guys. Thank you very much once again. That's it from just me, from Seán. Take care.